Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try to take a darker tone with all the things we do. If you like that kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe. Please keep commenting. It's one of the best things about this channel is being able to comment with you, respond to what you guys are doing, and hear some of the incredible things you guys have been able to do in your campaigns. Without further ado, let's jump into this week's video. The Humans. The human race, it comes to us from the player's handbook, and it's touched upon later in Eberron Rising, which is something we'll discuss a little later in the video. But ultimately, there were two types, what's called the vanilla human, which is the traditional one without any feats, and the variant human, which allocates you get an actual feat. We'll go a little more in depth into the separation in just a moment, but I want to mention that sometimes some DMs are not ready to handle things like feats, especially newer DMs or people trying the game for the first time, because it's a big game changer in mechanics. So in those situations, you probably wouldn't be able to play a variant human, but you would be able to play a regular traditional human. That's really the only reason why most of the time you would see regular humans. But it is important to note that the variant human gives you such an upside when you can start with a feat. And feats as themselves can change the way some combats work. If you play a game with a barbarian with a great weapon master and you play a game with a barbarian without it, it's very, very different what they can do. And it's understandably so why feats are so important, which is why you sacrifice an ability score increase in order to get them when you normally level up. So starting out with 1 is inherently strong, which is why before Tasha's you saw so many variant humans. And now with custom lineage, you see more custom lineages of different races. The vanilla human. This is the base human. This is the only human that is available with you in the player's handbook if you are not following the optional rule for feats. And at this point, most everybody plays with feats anyway, so you probably have never seen this or never will. That being said, it gives you +1 to all ability scores. It gives you average lifespan, average alignment, you can choose whatever you want, average size, and a move speed of 30, and common, and one other language. And that's it. It is very lackluster in this perspective. The key thing about being a human is the roleplay potential. And I'll cover this once I get into some of the other aspects of what being a human can be and the different sub-races you can choose from, and then I'll kind of try and bring it whole into that kind of perspective. But for now, this is it. You get nothing. It's boring. It's unappealing. There's nothing that makes you special, and it's really hurtful that way. But in a way, it's very cathartic knowing you really are just human in a world of elves, yuan-ti, sorcerers, magic, wizards, gnomes, like all that, and you're just base primordial oops in a way. The variant human. This is the human you've probably seen more often, and this is significantly more powerful than the vanilla human. The only difference is you have to play with the optional rule for feats. If you didn't know, feats are optional. You don't have to have them in your game if you don't like them. What it does, the variant human, is it replaces the ability score increase. Instead of getting a +1 to everything, you have 2 ability scores that you can pick to each have a +1 in. You gain a skill proficiency of your choice, and you gain 1 feat of your choice. The only caveat is it has to be a feat that you qualify for, so if you are not a Dragonborn, you can't get Dragonborn feats or Tiefling feats unless you are that race. Clearly you're not, because you're a variant human, so they have to fit along those. So that does give you options to pick the best feats in the game or the worst feats in the game. Depending on what kind of build you are building, this makes your character inherently better at it. If you're a barbarian, you can start out with great weapon master right off the get-go, and here you go. It's all you need. If you're not, if you're maybe a rogue or a ranger and you want a defensive duelist, you now have defensive duelist. If you have any skill that you think is great to build upon, picking up a feat is even better. You can be a battlemaster fighter and you can pick up the feat that gives you maneuvers and the battlemaster dice. There you go. It's a big boost to your character and you don't miss anything because you start out with it. It is fundamental in building the perfect soldier. This is the base. This is so widely picked before custom lineages because of that. You can focus down on what you need and just put the +1s in where you need them. Yeah, it's going to require you to min-max because this is ultimately geared towards that kind of a lane. So you have to fight for that +1 unless you rolled well and you compensated enough with rolling for dice that you didn't need to worry too much about that. But the feat is powerful. The right feat for the right class makes such a huge difference. And if you didn't want to necessarily gain one of the more powerful feats, maybe you didn't want lucky or anything like that, you can pick what's called half feats. And those are feats that give you a +1 to an ability score and whatever ability you wanted. So that will compensate, giving you a +2 in one of your ability scores and a +1 in the other, keeping you in line with everything else and still granting you a feat. The customization here is limitless. It all depends on what class, subclass you're choosing, what feats would be most opportune for you. This is why you saw so many human fighters, because they were variant human fighters. And with all the ability score increases that fighters get, you can compensate a lot and get your ASIs to where they need to be. Powerful, profound, unique. This variant human is one of the best lineages or races you could have picked once Player's Handbook came out. And even throughout, it was so wildly popular, you saw this constantly. The final variation to the human comes to us in Eberron Rising from the Last War, where you gain access to dragon marks. Dragon marks are inherently important to Eberron, to the setting, to the families, to the houses. It is integral that if you're going to do this, you kind of take some of that weight and really incorporate that into your character. That being said, each of these dragon marks replace your ability scores, your whole stat block for being of that lineage or race. So you gain different abilities, you gain inherent magic, sometimes you'll gain a skill or proficiency, depending on which one you choose, and you gain domain spells that are added to your spell list. So you don't have them known, but they're added to your spell list to give you various options that reflect your dragon mark. There is a lot to go into. I'm not really going to get too far into it because it's very rare that you see these. A lot of the times DMs will tend to avoid Eberron completely. A lot of it is very setting specific, so taking these dragon marks away from that area is really kind of strange. One thing I will say about this is what these dragon marks represent is a wonderful way to evolve on a lineage or a race. It gives you abilities, it gives you variation, it makes everyone seem different. And I think this was one of the step-off points where they gravitated towards Tasha's, where everyone can have a lot of different variety with custom lineages. And I think this was a stepping point. I think it first started out with the tieflings and all their variations with the different 9 hells demons. And then with this added to all the races, there is a bigger change that hits them all. And then I think it finally evolved to the custom lineages where you can just kind of make your own feat and go from there. It is very cool that you gain these abilities. It's very cool that it changes you dynamically. And it takes the normal human and gives it the availability to be so much more. It gives you a personalized reason, a birthmark that transforms your normal trait. And you know that because you know fundamentally what a normal human is. And it's a great push roleplay-wise, it's a great push storyline-wise, because you can build that. And as a human, you have one of the best role-playing potentials because you're human. And with dragon marks being specialized things that separate you from everyone else, you can take that a variety of different ways. The world around you can take that a variety of different ways. Maybe you weren't expected to have it. Maybe you were the child of a servant, and maybe there were some mysterious things going on with your parents and the nobility, and you weren't supposed to have this. So your family raised you up as this like messiah to them. Well, the noble house saw this as an act of transgression and knew that if they fought this or were tied to it, it would crush them and their power and weaken them. So they formulated this false promise of nobility to your family. That is a wonderful storyline to have to uphold, to have that burden on your shoulders, to find out that you were a baby of a broken marriage or a moment of passion. And now you're that character. And you have the promise of giving a nobility to your family and breaking them away from being just servants. because of this mark. You know, like, you could do a lot of great things with it. And as a human, all these possibilities are so visceral to you because you see them constantly. You've watched a show like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or anything that had might and magic to it, and there's a plethora of stories you can pick and choose to influence your character and backstories you can pull from. It is incredible the options you have because each dragon mark is different. It is distinct. It makes you something else, and it puts you on a certain path. And that is driving. Now on to role-playing potential for the humans. Like I just mentioned towards the end of the section on dragon marks, you as a human have the capability of being anything. All the backgrounds apply to you. Everything in the game revolves around you being a generic person that can move into something else. You can be any class. There is no restrictions to you. Everything is free. And because you are what I like to call the base primordial ooze of a character, there's no limits. There's nothing that inherently says you can't be that. You can't be this, because most everything about being human gives you options to be them even before Tasha's. So not worrying about switching your ability scores, you can be anything. You can make brother or sister characters, which is a concept I love, and have two humans that are completely different and have it both work. And not be limited to being, oh, we're all charisma casters, or we're all intelligence casters, or we're all wisdom, or we're all just strength or dex. You are just whatever you want to be. And you take that great humanity of being so different yet so similar, and you bring that into D&D, and you can make it a wonderful story. Humans inherently have character arcs. We change the way we feel. We're not soulless. We evolve constantly. Your character can have a reason. Your character can start off edgy and bring themselves into knowing the right way is a good way and being a good person and doing all these horrible things that I hate, and be a perfect, good character. And have it all make sense. You're not bound by the certain restrictions that some of the other races have. Like, if you're inherently evil by race, kind of hard to break that. A Yuan-Ti being good doesn't work. You are evil. You don't care about anything because you don't have feelings, and your only drive is your own ambition. Can't exactly be given the goodwill on that unless you happen to be falsifying it just for your own evil means. But it doesn't happen where you can genuinely make that arc. Evil races have that problem, where you can't really change who you are. You can only be who you are. And I love being evil races and evil characters. The best kind of evil is the evil that grows. And being a good character and slowly slipping into evil, and then just having to face that choice of, am I going to be good or am I going to be evil? And make that choice to be whatever you want is great for roleplay. When you're watching another character do something where they face that choice, maybe it's a situation where you guys are all talking one moment, and now the life of someone important hangs in the balance in the most chaotic character you know. That is exciting roleplay. That is a dynamic game changer for the campaign. You can do that with almost any character. The easiest way to do that is with a human character, because it's so easy to let how you would naturally feel dictate how your character would feel, and pull them together and make it so easy for you to role play. If you're not good at role playing and you wanted to really give it a shot, I urge you to try playing a human class, because you can let your emotions kind of blend with your character. And you're not playing yourself, obviously, but you can play from a similar standpoint mentally. And it makes it easier for you to do that. And when you get more experience role-playing, you can then branch out and try different characters and different mentalities and do things like that. But this is your base. This is the easiest way to get into role-playing. This is your easiest way to get into a character that can be anything. You're not super restricted any way, shape, or form. You're free. And if you take the time out to read the entire list of feats, you can see what incredible things you can do. It is awesome, and they're constantly adding new feats and changing the way things work, and it's an empowering thing to keep track of and to see the customization you get. It is fantastic that it brings all those good things into one race, and it gives you the option to do it however you want in whatever avenues you wish to take. Our final thoughts. The human race, the human lineage in real life. Horrible things that should never have come to be. But in Dungeons and Dragons, it is wonderful. It is a great basis. It's very easy to play a character that can be deceptive, that can be great, that can be honest, that can be good, that can be great, that can be vile. It's all right there for you to very easily play with. A lot of people have known the vanilla human to be very bland, boring, uninterested, and a complete waste. But variant is there for a reason, and then dragon marks really dynamically change everything. I encourage you to take the time out to read. This is one of those races and lineages that really needs you to take the time out to read all of your options and understand what that means. If you do that, you have the greatest ability to create a very powerful character that can do incredible things and is laser focused on that class and ability and that skill or whatever it is you're trying to build your character around. It's fundamental. It's incredible. I really can't say anything bad about this race because it gives you the greatest gift a race or a lineage can give you, and that's the opportunity to make it however you want. So, that being said, everyone here, if you haven't played a human character, definitely get into it. Definitely give it a shot. I know there's a lot of awesome races out there. You're going to have to try this at least one time just to kind of see how freeing it can be. And if you're new and you really wanted to try roleplay, but you were worried about everything, take the time out. Really look at it as a real option, because you have the strengths you need. You're going to have the abilities you need. You're going to have a whole bunch of skills that you can choose from, and it won't force you into a specific alignment, into any specific thing that you need to be or that you need to deal with, because humans can be anything. It is a great gift. I hope you take advantage to see it. It's a popular race for a reason, and it is a fantastic race to play. I've played them a bunch of times. I have a couple of humans as backup characters, always sitting in the wings. It's great. We're all human. It's a great way to play that and not have to put too much strain on yourself and not have to worry about how to roleplay, and give yourself this great way to jump off into roleplaying if you're especially new. That being said, we are going to bring this video to a close. Thank you all for your support. It is an awesome thing to have you guys like, share, and subscribe, and really join the channel and join the conversations. It's great to hear from you guys. It is an awesome experience to know that you guys have played and had these great experiences, and I want to hear some about your great human experiences. Please comment, let us know about that. And again, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.